Welcome, everyone. Great to be with you all again. And I'm very excited about the topic we have today. And actually, this could very well be one of the most requested topics about aromatherapy, and one I've spent a lot of time and done a lot of research discovering. Many of you want to know how to use essential oils for your pets. And my first point of advice is going to be less is more. I'm just going to say that again. Less is more. First of all, let's start with our dog fur babies. What you most need to know about your dogs is they have a sense of smell that is 500 times stronger than our own. Yes, I said 500 times stronger than our own sense of smell. It's the reason that walking your dog is so vitally important for their well-being. Dogs walk. That's just what they do. When they lived in their native environment, that's what they did. They just walked, and that's how they live their lives. They look for food, they look for shelter, they look for water. So that's the first reason it's so important to walk your dogs. But more importantly, and what we're concerned with in terms of their sense of smell, is they also need to smell their environment to assess what's going on in the neighborhood and all around them. It's kind of like people who get up and read the paper in the morning or look at the news online every day just to get a sense of what's going on in our world. Well, dogs do the same thing through their sense of smell. And they always smell everything long before we will. And the most minute smell they're going to perceive. So that said, just imagine how your dog feels about the potency and the strength of essential oils on their heightened sense of smell. So I always dilute everything big time when I use oils on my pets. A great way to use aromatics with our pets is by using hydrosols. Hydrosols are the byproduct of distillation. So when the steam goes through the plant material, breaks apart the molecules, and carries it through the condenser into the catch pot, the oil and water separate. The oil comes off the top. The hydrosol is what's remaining, and it has water-soluble molecules. It's also very dilute, not nearly as potent as the essential oil, but it's a great way to use those aromatic molecules to have an effect on your dog or your cat. I use it more on the dog than the cat, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So I have lavender hydrosol, which I'll spray on my dog Sophie's coat in the summer when she gets a little itchy and dry, as it's very soothing for the skin, also anti-inflammatory. So it helps take any redness or dryness. And again, those water molecules will help to hydrate the skin. So if you're going to use essential oils, you'll want to dilute in a dilution of about 28 drops per 1 ounce of carrier oil. And then I even dilute that even further by putting the oil in my palm first, and then I take a couple fingers and stick it in the oil, and I'll massage it on the back end of Sophie, away from her face. That's my little dog, Sophie. And the only oils I use on my dog are grapefruit. And the reason I use grapefruit is because grapefruit oil was actually tested by the CDC, or the Center for Disease Control. And it was found to be the #1 insect repellent. They were looking to dissuade mosquitoes that carried West Nile virus. And they found that grapefruit oil is the top insect repellent. So sometimes I'll put a little bit on my dog Sophie if we're going to be hiking in nature, as I live in flea and tick country. So I take 1 drop, rub it on my palms, and then lightly go over her coat so that just the fragrance is there, but it's not really into her skin, and it's very dilute. But it also will repel ticks and fleas when I'm out walking her. Now, I'll also use lavender on Sophie if she has a hot spot or a wound. And again, it's going to be 1 drop, and it's going to be diluted in the palm of my hand, and take that couple fingers and just massage the area of the affliction. And again, I'm going to keep it away from her head so that the smell doesn't really impact her sense of smell so acutely. So I just really work that towards the back end of her body. The other way I like to calm my pets is by diffusing lavender oil. So I'll diffuse for about an hour or so and then turn it off, as both the dogs and cats are, again, super sensitive to essential oils. So that said, when it comes to cats, we don't want to use oils too often on cats, as they don't process the oils out of their livers very easily. And so that can build up and become toxic for them. So diffusing is only recommended with cats every so often. So with my cat Checkers, I diffuse every other day, and it'll be for about an hour or so, then I turn it off, and maybe a couple hours later I'll turn it back on for an hour or so. And it gets enough of the fragrance in the room, but it doesn't have a big impact on my kitty. So if I'm ever going to use oils directly on Checkers, my kitty, they have to be very, very dilute, even more so than for dogs, and very irregularly. Again, lavender is a great soothing oil when it's diluted, both by a carrier oil and your hands when you're applying it. So with a cat, you're just going to take one drop, and I would even put a drop to match of a carrier oil and mix it together for a cat. And it's if they have a wound or an infection. I know some cats like to get in cat fights, and they'll come up, and if you don't address that wound, it'll get infected. And I've dealt with that with an old male cat I had. So you can put one drop in carrier oil and just apply it to the wound, and it'll help kill off the infection or kill off bacteria. So I find that when you diffuse oils, we're going back to diffusing for a moment, we get used to the smell really quickly. But if you leave the room and come back, you're going to find the fragrance lingers for quite a long time. So again, we don't really need to diffuse for long periods of time. One, your cat's not going to like it too much, and your dog's going to get a little saturated with that sense of smell that's 500 times stronger than humans. But more importantly, you're also going to use up a lot of oils if you just keep it going all the time. Now, for those of you with unicorn babies at home, the good news with unicorns is that they love all oils. And the more you use essential oils with unicorns, especially babies, the stronger and healthier they become. They're the only fur babies where more is better for them. So my friends, that's my quick go-to for your fur babies. And just remember, less is more with fur babies unless you're a unicorn. Have an awesome aromatic week.